Welcome. In this video, we are going to be covering the IXL Assignment AA4. Find the number of solutions to a system of equations by graphing. And that shortcut code is AGZ. On this assignment, you may be able to look at the two equations and just know automatically how many solutions. Either no, one, or infinite. But even if you know automatically, this IXL assignment does require that you still graph the equations. It's kind of a good and a bad thing both, but I really think it mainly is a good thing because I know that graphing is a skill that we need to work on. We learned it before Christmas break, but it is something that several of you may need a refresher on. Well, now that you've stepped away from it a while and you're seeing it again, I hope that it will click and that graphing lines will be a little bit easier for you. So with that being said, please don't put up a mental block and think you can't do this assignment. Try to see it with fresh eyes and we'll look at it step by step. Okay, let's go ahead and start with graphing these two lines. First, let's review slope-intercept form. For this IXL assignment, every single equation is either going to be given to you in slope-intercept form or standard form. Slope-intercept form is what both of these are in. Slope-intercept form is y equals mx plus b, where m represents our slope. And remember, we can think of slope as rise over run. So mx plus rb, which is our y-intercept. All right, now that we've refreshed our memory on what that is, let's look at our very first equation and identify what our slope and y-intercept are. Okay, we have y is equal to 2x minus 4. Let's compare that to this equation. If that's something that's a little tricky for you to do, one thing that I encourage is for you to write the formula directly above your equation, and that way your m will line up and your b will line up. So let me show you what I'm talking about. If we write this, y equals mx plus b. Once we do that, our m and our b lines up. So our b, our y-intercept for this problem, is -4. Okay, so we're going to graph and we're going to put our first point on the y-axis because that's what a y-intercept is. It intercepts the y, so it is directly on the y-axis. Now to get our second point, we need to use our slope. This slope, remember, is not an ordered pair. It's an m, it's a movement. It's that rise over run. In this case, our slope is 2. But you may be thinking, hold on, Mrs. Ailstock. You said slope is rise over run, which means it's a fraction. What do we do if it's not a fraction? Well, we rewrite it as a fraction. This is one time when fractions are your friend. We can rewrite any number as a fraction by putting it over 1. Because fractions are another way to show division. And if you divide a number by 1, you get that same number. So 2 divided by 1 is 2. 100 divided by 1, 100. -50 divided by 1, -50. So if you have a whole number, like we did here, a 2, just rewrite it by putting it over 1, and there you have your slope as a fraction. All right, we're going to go from that y-intercept, we're going to do that movement. So we start at our green point, our y-intercept, and we're going to rise 2 places. So I'm going to rise up 2. and then I'm going to run one place. And because the numbers are positive, that's why I'm moving up in a positive direction. Because the 1 is positive, that's why I move to the right in the positive direction. Once I do that, I can put my second point. All right, that's a little sloppy, so now let's graph it on IXL. Our first equation is green, so let's make sure that's clicked. On IXL, I'll put a point here and a point here, and there we go. It graphs it for me. All right, but this is a system. And with a system, remember that means more than one. And in our case, it's always going to mean 2. So now I need to move forward and graph my second line, which is y, oops, wrong color. Y equals, there we go. Y equals negative x plus 2. Okay, let's identify our y-intercept first. Our b is the beginning. It's where you always want to start. Well, our b is a positive 2. On our graph, we're going to have a y-intercept. So here we are on the y-axis at positive 2. Now we need to find our slope. That's that m. I see that there's a negative sign right here. What is that negative really? Yeah, it's really a negative 1. So negative 1, let's turn it into a fraction again by putting it over 1. There we have our slope. There we have our m, our movement. So because this is a movement, we go back to that ordered pair, not the origin, and we move that many spaces, and that will allow us to create a second point. All right, I see a negative 1, which means in my rise, I'm really going to rise down because it's negative. So I'm going to rise down 1, but then the second one, the run, is positive. So I'll go to the right, positive 1, and put my second point. All right, for IXL, we'll click on the purple button here because now we're graphing the second one. Y-intercept, second point, there we go. All right, now that our 2 lines are graphed, we can determine how many solutions it has. Let's refresh our memory on what all 3 of these are before making a decision. This right here is what we're used to seeing. All right, we're used to working with systems of equations where the 2 lines intersect. When the 2 lines intersect, that means it is one solution. They intersect, one solution, okay? It's a really bad picture. Because there is that one single point that they have in common. There we go. The X right there. That means one solution. So that's going to be our answer, but let's go ahead and talk about the other 2. No solution, well, if the solution is where the 2 points cross, if there's no solution, that means your lines don't ever cross. So it would be 2 sets of parallel lines where they never cross. That's what it would look like for a no solution. All right, last but not least, infinitely many solutions. Well, infinitely many means all the solutions. That means all of the points cross. When that happens, both of your lines are actually the same line. They are right on top of each other. So every single point is shared. Every single point is a solution. And because they have arrows, because it keeps going forever and ever, that's why it's infinite. Okay? But now that we have figured out the answer, we can click it and try another example. Very good. All right, this is a good example here. All right, for me, because I know some of the shortcuts, I can look at that and I can know what the answer is. And when we finish it, we'll talk about that shortcut. But regardless, even if you already know the answer, you still got to graph it, which is a great way to help you prove it. Both of these are in slope-intercept form, which is wonderful. Let's start off with that very first equation, identify our b. Well, our b, our y-intercept, is positive 6. So we're going to start off at a positive 6. And then what is our slope? It's a negative. So yeah, if we want to write it off to the side here, our slope is -1. Remember, turn it into a fraction over 1. So we're going to start at our y-intercept and go down 1 over 1, and that's where our second point's going to be. Put our 2 points. There we go. IXL has it for us. Let's do the second equation. All right, this time our y-intercept is -3. So our graph is going to start y-intercept, y-axis at -3, so down here, because here's a -2, -4. So -3 would be in the middle. What's our slope this time? Oh, interesting. Our slope is a -1 over -1 again. So they have the same slope. Any ideas what that means if your lines have the same slope? What do you notice about those lines? They're parallel. If you notice that your lines have a different y-intercept, so 6 and -3, but they have the same slope, -1 over 1, that means they're going to be parallel, which means they will never intersect. Therefore, our answer is no solution, because these lines are parallel, they are never going to cross. And it works that way because with them having the same slope, they are moving at the exact same speed. So they're never going to catch up because they're moving the same. No solution. Yay, got that one right. All right, let's do this one, and then we'll try to find a more difficult one where the equations are not in slope-intercept form, okay? All right, here we have our 2 equations. Once again, in looking at this, I can already tell the answer, but we still have to graph it regardless. On that last one, we knew that it was no solution because the slopes were the same. This one, we'll figure out the trick at the end as well. All right, as always, we start our graphing with the y-intercept. Our very first one has a y-intercept of 5. What is our slope? It's not 0. If you said 0, that means there would be no x, because your m, your slope, is being multiplied by your x, and 0 times anything is 0. So if you see an x there, it's not 0. It would be 1, because there's one single x there. But as a fraction, 1 over 1. All right, let's do that movement. Let's get our second point. Go to your y-intercept of 5, up 1, over 1. And there's our point. Let's graph it on IXL now. Bingo. Let's go to our second line. Wait a minute. Those 2 equations are the same. Do you remember what I said earlier at the very beginning? Yeah, if your 2 equations are exactly the same, it's going to be infinitely many solutions because they overlap. Every point is shared. Even though I know this, IXL still requires you to graph both lines. So I'm just going to graph this on IXL. Now I'm going to click on the yellow one. Same thing. I'm going to click here and here, and you can see that it has both the yellow and the blue. IXL put a little bit of space so you could see they're both done, but they are the same line, which means it will be infinitely many solutions because every single point is shared. Every single point is a solution. All right, there we go. Now we had an example of each, which is awesome. Let's go through and find one where the equation is not in slope-intercept form so we can review that before we come to a close. Here we go. Perfect. All right, this very top equation here, 2x plus 3y equals 6, is not in slope-intercept form. That's in standard form. which standard form is when you have your x term plus your y term equals your constant. We need to rewrite this so it's in slope-intercept form. We want it to be y equals mx plus b. Well, the first thing I notice is that if it needs to be in slope-intercept form, your x is on the right side of the equal sign. But right now, the x is on the left side of the equal sign. So I need to move that 2x, that mx basically, over to the other side. How do we move something to the other side of the equation? We do the inverse, the opposite. So if it's a positive 2x, I'm going to move it to the other side by subtracting 2x. So 2x minus 2x, they both have x's, so they're like terms. They equal 0. 3y equals, now we have 6 minus 2x. Can I subtract those? No. Do you know why not? Because they're not like terms. This 6 does not have an x. And I can't add or subtract, so I can't combine numbers that are not alike. One has a variable, one doesn't. Which means I can't really subtract them, but that's okay. Because let's look at our slope-intercept form. We have an x term plus a constant. An x term plus our constant. So it can just be written as 2x, and then this is a positive 6, so plus 6. All right, we're closer. We almost have it in the right format. The only other thing is I need my y to be by itself. So what can we do to get rid of that 3? Once again, we need to do the inverse. Right now it's 3 times y. So what is the inverse of multiplication? Division. We're going to divide everything by 3. 3 divided by 3 is 1. We're left with a y. Negative 2 divided by 3. I can't simplify or reduce that. I can't divide it and get a whole number. And if I were to divide it, I would just get a decimal. But remember, this is with our x. That means it's our slope, and we want our slope to be a fraction. So I can just leave it as negative 2/3. And then 6 divided by 3 is 2. All right, there we go. Now we have our 2 equations in slope-intercept form. All right, take a look at them real quick. What do you notice? They both have the same slope. So if they both have the same slope, either they're no solution or infinite solutions. They're not the exact same. Their y-intercepts are different, which means this is going to be a no solution. Because if you notice the 2 lines have the same slope, they will be parallel, which means they never cross, and we're going to get no solution. But let's graph it to verify. All right, this very first one here, I'm just going to graph this on IXL. That's here in green. My y-intercept is 2, and my slope is negative 2/3. So I'm going to go down 2, right 3. There's my line. All right, let's graph our second one, our pink one. This one has a y-intercept of negative 8. Here's my y-axis. So I'm going to go to the y, negative 8. And my slope is negative 2/3. So down 2, right 1, 2, 3. There we go. I can see, in fact, they are parallel. They never cross. Therefore, it is no solution. All right. I hope that this video has found to be beneficial to you all. If you have any questions, as always, send me an email and I can answer your specific question, or of course, attend my help sessions, and I will be more than happy to work with you and help you there. All right. Bye. Have a great day, guys.